Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another brand new Mattel Jurassic World, this time Hammond collection release, not Chaos Theory. We've got the Scutosaurus, and this has just recently begun shipping from Amazon, so I'm really excited to have this one here. Definitely psyched in general to have a Scutosaurus, like a super articulated version in the Hammond collection, even if it isn't something that, I feel like should have been released quite yet. I feel like there's lots of other species they could probably be working on for the Hammond collection, but I'm really excited about it, no doubt, because I love Scutosaurus. And you can see the figure there within the window area. Looks pretty nice. We've got a nice shot of it here on the front of the packaging, and then again Scutosaurus right there. If you look at it from the side, another shot of the figure. Hammond collection on the opposing side, and then over here you can see a nice image of the Scutosaurus on the back. Shockingly, I had just posted a news video yesterday that had shown off the back of the packaging for one of these, and it had shown off the images of the other figures down here at the bottom, which included the Triceratops, which I was actually kind of excited to get a look at it here on my box, but for some reason my box doesn't have it, so I don't know why. Very strange, but regardless, I'm excited to check this one out, so let's pop it out of the box and do just that. So here is our Scutosaurus now out of the packaging, and honestly looking really nice. I definitely am a very big fan of what I'm seeing with this, and I know there are, like I said earlier, many different species that they probably could and should be working on before we would get a Scutosaurus, but I'm actually going to kind of keep my fingers crossed that we get more similar species like this, like maybe an Scutosaurus or something, just if we're going to kind of base this off of the old Kenner release, as we had, a Scutosaurus and Scutosaurus in a set, and you can see this one has a very strong kind of resemblance when it comes to the coloration, I think, to the old Kenner version, but this does look really, really nice here at first glance, so let's jump to a closer look and we'll check it out from there. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Scutosaurus, you can see it looks really quite nice as far as the skin texture. There's actually a lot of really bumpy scales and osteoderms here on the face, and I think it looks really nicely done. One thing that instantly is just honestly jumping out at me is how good the eyes look on this. When it comes to that glass eye effect, we haven't really had too many figures that look good with that going on, but this one actually does, and I would say is probably the best version that we've seen so far when it comes to the glass eyes from Mattel and the Hammond collection. You can see the nostrils sculpted out up here on the tip of the snout. Another thing that's really cool is as we have all of these kind of like spikes hanging off of the face of our Scutosaurus, you can see they are all painted with a nice sort of an off-white, which is also a huge plus for the figure. We do, of course, have an articulated jaw, which can open pretty wide. You can see the teeth there on the inside of the mouth, also painted with a white, and we can also see the tongue in there, which is actually pretty decently textured, also painted with a nice pinkish tone, and you can see the pink on the inside of the mouth on the upper side as well. Not super impressive as far as the detail goes on the upper side of the mouth, but still pretty decent, and you can see that jaw works really nicely. As you move through the face, you can see primarily we have this nice dark green tone, again quite reminiscent to the old Kenner release, but you can also see we've got a darker tone that sort of runs around the eye, leads up here toward the snout, also back here. Very nice naturalistic color scheme, I would say, for this species. You can see more of that darker tone up here on the top of the head, basically just kind of showing up and spreading throughout the top of the head fairly randomly overall, but again, more really bumpy sort of osteoderm-like scales as you move through the top of the head with a little bit finer scaling right there. As we move back into the neck, you start to see that dark tone pick up. It's like a dark brown, and it really quite nicely overtakes a large portion of the back of the neck of the figure, and you can see the greens kind of creeping through in some different areas. We also have a lighter tone moving along the underside of the neck, which you can see starting in the throat right here. Fairly abrupt start, not really a smooth transition, but it looks pretty decent as far as that goes. As far as the neck articulation goes, you do have a spot right here, which can swivel quite nicely. Doesn't really seem to do a whole lot outside of swiveling. Not really sure. Yeah, we can kind of get like a little hint of like a left and right turn. Not much in the way of up and down, but the swivel works nicely. But then you've got another spot right here, which seems to be a little bit tight at this point in time. I'm trying to move it without actually damaging the figure. But that area, as you can see, can go up, can also go down, can go left and right. I think we've broken that in now, so that's a plus. And that definitely allows some really nice, very smooth mobility for the Scutosaurus. Honestly, I would say articulating that neck in pretty much any and every way you could possibly expect for this species. As you move back into the body a little bit further, you start to see more of that tone of, that darker brown pick up, but you start to see more of the green kind of breaking through and showing up as you lead along. You'll also notice a different tone of green. It's almost like a greenish brown that you see on the upper part of the body, transitioning back to that primary green we see in the face right around here, which actually even in the face there's a little bit of that variation of that greenish brown. The coloration on this is really well done. It might honestly be one of my favorite figures to come from the Hammond collection so far as the coloration on it. We've even got more of those dark brown tones showing up in a few different areas as you lead down further into the body. The skin texture continues to look really impressive overall. You can see it's extremely vibrant, and again we have all of those bumpy sort of osteoderms as you lead up into the top of the figure. As you lead down into the legs, you can see some nice muscle definition. You can also see that we have that pretty much the standard green of our Scutosaurus. You can also see lots of very bumpy, again, osteoderm like scales. As far as the articulation in the legs, you can go forward and back and also out away from the body, actually pretty high, which is pretty interesting. You also have elbow articulation forward and back, which works pretty good, and that area can swivel as well. And then you've got ankle articulation, which is a little stiff right now, and it's not allowing me to move it too much, but you can see it moving a little bit. Definitely needs to be worn in, and you can see it can swivel as well, so that's really nice. As you lead down into the foot, you can see the toes sculpted pretty nicely. Unfortunately, we actually don't have nail paint, which is surprising because it is a Hammond collection release. We normally would get nail paint on the figure. It does have a nice satin shine for the nails, but unfortunately no actual nail paint. Pull the legs apart, you can get a better view of the stomach. Again, the stomach looks really good. The transition down to the lighter tone of the underbelly also looks really nice. The skin texture on the underside, very different from what we see on the upper side of the Scutosaurus, also looks pretty good. And again, you see more of that dark brown showing up down here in the stomach. As you lead back, you've got the nice muscle definition here in the thigh as well as the calf. Again, the leg articulation forward and back. It kind of goes out away from the body. You can see a little wiggle room, not nearly as much as we saw on the front legs, but you also have the articulation in the knee, again forward and back, and can also swivel. No ankle articulation for the rear foot though. But again, just like the front foot, there isn't any actual paintwork for the nails, but you can see the foot sculpt looks really nice. Just again, that nice satin shine for the nails. We have that same type of skin texture here leading down with the mixture of scales and the osteoderm-like scales. And then you lead out into the tail, and you can see we actually do have even more of that dark brown and that dark brownish green showing up out here into the tail. You've got a nice short tail with some, again, more of those like sort of osteoderm-like scales and stuff. And the tail can articulate left and right, up and down, and can swivel as well. There you go. So you have pretty much the standard articulation in that area. And then once we turn it around, you can see, of course, the figure is going to look pretty much the same from both sides. No real big difference from one side to the other, especially considering it is a superposable, super articulated figure. It's not really going to look too different from one side to the other, but definitely a very, very nice figure. As far as a size goes, for a length, you are looking at about 6 inches or just a little over 15 centimeters. And then for a height in the position it's currently in, actually, the back is probably the highest point currently. You're looking at about 3 inches or around 7.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon in the Collect Day Human Being next to our Scutosaurus from Mattel and the Hammond collection. And you can see the figure is roughly in the same size as your standard sort of Attack Pack Strike Attack size range. Somewhere in that vicinity, you can very clearly see that there next to the Colovosaurus. Then for another size comparison, we have your standard version of the Scutosaurus from Mattel, which you can see is very similar in size to the Hammond collection version. The head of the standard version is a little bit bigger, but they do look super cool next to each other. And we've also got the Kenner Scutosaurus, which you can see, again, what I was talking about when I stated that they are very similar as far as the coloration. Again, a little bit more color added to the Hammond Collection version, but it feels like the influence here was definitely the Kenner version. And I feel like the only other comparison we really need is with the Hammond Collection Dimetrodon, so just to kind of give you an idea of how it sizes up next to your other Hammond Collection figures, you can very clearly see it's right there in the same similar size range as the Dimetrodon. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Hammond Collection Scutosaurus is absolutely fantastic if you ask me, and in my own personal opinion, I would say it's one of my favorites to come from the Hammond Collection overall so far. And like I said earlier, I really hope they keep making more species like this. Like I would love to see maybe an Stemnosuchus, or actually I would actually really like to see a Postosuchus at some point. Would be really neat in the Hammond Collection. Just the type of species you wouldn't expect, and that's exactly what this Scutosaurus is. It's a species in the Hammond Collection that I never would have expected, especially to come so early on. Maybe eventually, but as far as earlier releases go, this one was quite the surprise. But I'm very happy with the final product. I think the sculpt overall is gorgeous. It's extremely highly detailed, extremely crisp, and by far the best looking Scutosaurus that Mattel has released so far. It's also got some really nice paintwork to it. Again, the fact that we have various tones of color, really smooth transitions, nice natural patterning, and the glass eye on the face looking so much better than most is definitely a massive plus for this figure. The only thing missing is painted nails. I really wish we had painted nails on it, but that's not the end of the world, I guess. But still, it is a gorgeous figure as far as both the sculpt and paint, and it does have some really nice articulation, by far the most articulation I've ever seen on a Scutosaurus, so that as well is a massive plus. If you are interested in picking this up, I will include a link in the description to where you can purchase it on Amazon. It does seem to go in and out of stock quite often, so if you do check that link and it's not in stock right now, just check back and it should be back in stock at some point soon. And of course, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.